Some of the most widely believed facts on Earth are completely made up. Bulls do not charge because of the color red. Einstein did not fail math. Napoleon was not short. The Great Wall of China is not visible from the moon. You have been repeating these as facts your entire life, and every single one of them is wrong. 30 misconceptions. All of them common. All of them debunked. Here is what is actually true. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. Most Americans treat it like Mexico's 4th of July. Mexican Independence Day is September 16th. Cinco de Mayo commemorates a single military battle in 1862, where Mexican forces defeated the French army at the Battle of Puebla. Mexico lost the war shortly after. The holiday is barely celebrated in Mexico and became a major American celebration largely through marketing by beer companies in the 1980s. You have probably seen a matador wave a red cape at a charging bull. The bull cannot see red. It is completely colorblind. The bull charges at the movement of the cape. The red color exists to hide bloodstains from the crowd. You probably picture Vikings wearing helmets with 2 large horns on each side. Vikings never wore horned helmets into battle. Historians found exactly one ceremonial horned helmet in Scandinavia. It was used for rituals. The image everyone knows came from a 19th century opera costume designer. You have heard that dropping a penny from the Empire State Building could kill someone on the street below. It would not kill anyone. A penny is too light and too flat. Air resistance slows it to roughly 11 miles per hour before it lands. It would sting, nothing more. You were probably taught in school that your tongue has specific zones for sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. Every zone on that diagram is wrong. Taste receptors for all 4 flavors are distributed across your entire tongue. The diagram came from a mistranslated German study from 1901. Goldfish do not have a 3-second memory. They can remember things for several months. Scientists train goldfish to press levers for food at specific times of day. The fish learn the schedule and return to the lever at the correct time weeks later. The 3-second myth has no scientific origin. Someone made it up and it stuck. Napoleon Bonaparte was not unusually short. He was average height for a Frenchman of his era. He stood 5 feet 7 inches tall. The myth came from 2 sources: British wartime propaganda designed to mock the enemy, and a unit conversion error between French and British measurements that made him appear 4 inches shorter than he actually was. The Great Wall of China is not visible from the moon. No astronaut has ever seen it from there with the naked eye. The wall is roughly 30 feet wide. Seeing it from the moon would be like trying to spot a single human hair from 2 miles away. The myth was printed in a Ripley's Believe It or Not column in 1932, decades before anyone had actually been to space to check. Humans do not use only 10% of their brains. Every part of your brain gets used. Brain imaging technology shows activity distributed across all regions during different tasks. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's total energy, despite making up only 2% of your body weight. The 10% myth spread through misquoted research and self-help books in the early 20th century. Ostriches do not bury their heads in sand when threatened. They have never done this once. When threatened, they press their entire bodies flat against the ground and stretch their necks forward. From a distance, it looks like the head has disappeared underground. The myth goes back to the Roman writer Pliny the Elder, who apparently never got close enough to verify what he was seeing. Lightning does not avoid striking the same place twice. It almost always strikes the same place repeatedly. The Empire State Building gets struck by lightning roughly 23 times per year. Tall objects attract repeated strikes because of their height and conductivity. The saying exists to comfort people after bad luck. It has nothing to do with how electricity works. The Declaration of Independence was not signed on July 4, 1776. Most delegates did not sign it that day. Congress voted to adopt the Declaration on July 4th, but the formal signing took place primarily on August 2, 1776. Several delegates signed even later. July 4th became the celebrated date because that is when the text was approved, not when it was actually signed. The Sahara is not the largest desert on Earth. Antarctica is, and it is not particularly close. A desert is defined by low precipitation, not heat or sand. Antarctica receives less than 2 inches of precipitation per year across 5.5 million square miles. The Sahara covers roughly 3.5 million square miles. Antarctica wins by 2 million square miles and it is covered entirely in ice. Cracking your knuckles does not cause arthritis. It causes nothing except a popping sound. The sound comes from bubbles bursting in the fluid that lubricates your joints. A physician named Donald Unger cracked the knuckles on his left hand every single day for 60 years and never cracked the right. He did this as a deliberate experiment. Neither hand developed arthritis. Eating late at night does not cause more weight gain than eating during the day. Your body does not store more fat after dark. Weight gain is determined by total calories consumed versus total calories burned. The hour on the clock is irrelevant. The myth persists because people tend to snack on high-calorie foods late at night, not because metabolism changes at midnight. Blood is not blue inside your body, it is always red. Oxygenated blood is bright red. Deoxygenated blood returning through your veins is a darker red, not blue. Veins appear blue through skin because of the way different wavelengths of light penetrate and reflect through tissue. The color you see through your skin is an optical effect, not the actual color of the blood. Wet hair in cold weather does not give you a cold. Temperature has no effect on whether you get sick. Colds are caused by viruses. You catch them from other people. Researchers have deliberately exposed test subjects to cold viruses in warm and cold conditions for decades. Being cold or wet does not increase infection rates. The myth spread because flu season peaks in winter when people spend more time indoors together. Twinkies do not last forever. Their shelf life is roughly 45 days. The myth of the immortal Twinkie spread through pop culture references and jokes until most people assumed it was true. In reality, Twinkies stay on store shelves for about 7 to 10 days before being pulled. The relatively long shelf life compared to homemade baked goods comes from low moisture content, not from preservatives that defy time. Bats are not blind. Most species have perfectly good vision. They also use echolocation to navigate in complete darkness, which has nothing to do with their eyesight. The phrase, blind as a bat, exists because bats fly erratically and are hard to track. Their vision is fine. Shaving does not make hair grow back thicker or darker. It has no effect on how hair grows at all. Hair grows from follicles beneath the skin. A razor never touches the follicle. The blunt-cut end of shaved hair feels coarser than a natural tapered tip, which creates the illusion of thickness. The color and growth rate are completely unchanged. Chameleons do not change color to blend into their surroundings. They change color to communicate. Color changes signal mood, temperature, and social status to other chameleons. Their resting color already provides reasonable camouflage. The dramatic shifts you see are not about hiding. They are the chameleon equivalent of a facial expression. Einstein did not fail mathematics as a child. He was exceptional at it from an early age. By age 12, he had taught himself algebra and calculus. The myth spread from a misreading of the Swiss grading system, where 6 is the highest mark, not the lowest. Einstein scored top marks consistently throughout his schooling. Dogs do not see only in black and white. They can see colors, just not the full range humans can. Dogs see primarily in shades of blue and yellow. They cannot distinguish red from green, which is similar to red-green colorblindness in humans. The black and white myth likely spread because early research on animal vision was misinterpreted and oversimplified. Sushi does not mean raw fish. It refers to vinegared rice. The word sushi describes the seasoned rice, not what goes on top of it. Sushi can be made with cooked shrimp, egg, cucumber, or pickled vegetables. Raw fish on its own is called sashimi, which is an entirely different dish. The two are not the same thing. Sugar does not make children hyperactive. The sugar rush is not real. Researchers have tested this in controlled studies for decades. Children given sugar and children given a placebo behaved identically. The myth persists largely because parents expect hyperactivity after sugar and interpret normal child behavior through that lens. Expectation creates the illusion. The Spanish flu did not originate in Spain. Spain had nothing to do with where it started. Spain was neutral during World War I and had no wartime censorship on its press. When the flu hit, Spanish newspapers reported it openly, while other countries suppressed coverage to avoid damaging morale. The rest of the world read about it coming from Spain, and the name stuck. The actual origin is still debated, but most evidence points to the United States. Mount Everest is not the tallest mountain on Earth. It depends entirely on how you measure. Everest is the highest point above sea level at 29,032 feet. But Mauna Kea in Hawaii measures over 33,000 feet from its base on the ocean floor to its summit. By that measurement, Everest is not even close to the tallest. Chimborazo in Ecuador also beats Everest when measured from the center of the Earth due to the planet's equatorial bulge. George Washington Carver did not invent peanut butter. Peanut butter existed centuries before he was born. The Aztecs and Incas were grinding peanuts into paste as early as the 15th century. A Canadian named Marcellus Edson patented a version of peanut butter in 1884. Carver was a brilliant agricultural scientist who developed hundreds of uses for peanuts, but peanut butter was not one of his inventions. The myth likely grew because his name became so associated with peanuts that people assumed he invented everything related to them. The pyramids of Giza were not built by slaves. The workers were paid employees. Archaeological evidence uncovered near the pyramids includes worker villages, bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities. Records show laborers received wages in the form of food, beer, and goods. Some skeletons show evidence of medical care for injuries sustained during construction. The slave narrative was popularized by ancient writers, including Herodotus, who visited Egypt 2,000 years after the pyramids were built and was not a reliable eyewitness. Humans do not lose most of their body heat through their heads. Heat escapes evenly from all exposed skin. The head accounts for roughly 10% of your body's surface area. It loses roughly 10% of your body heat, no more than any other part of the same size. The myth came from a flawed military study where subjects were bundled in Arctic suits but left their heads uncovered. Of course, the head lost the most heat, and it was the only thing exposed. The study measured exposure, not biology. Wear a hat in winter because your head gets cold, not because it is a special heat escape hatch. What other misconceptions did I miss? Drop them in the comments below. Your suggestions might end up in part 2.